Happy Sunday! Welcome to season 6, season finale of Let's Talk About You. It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful Sunday. I am your host, Camilla Francis. It's always an honor and a privilege to be here, to be in your living room, in your car, in your room, wherever it is that you watch us from on these Sundays. I'm excited and I'm just a little nostalgic because I can't believe it's the end of season 6. Oh, and without further ado, let me bring in the two ladies that they have allowed me to bring Let's Talk About You to you. They have done the infomercials, sitting here and doing the recording and the streaming to make sure that whatever I bring forth to you is possible. Crystal and Kiana, welcome to Let's Talk About You season finale.
Hello,
Hi.
hello.
Hey, we're here.
Excited, but I'm a little sad. I don't know why I'm sad, but I am sad. But I'm happy. It's a good feeling. It really is a good feeling. I am so proud of you ladies. I am so happy that you ladies said yes to Camilla. And I know that when you guys did my salute, my tribute, you said how Dululu I am. And I told Crystal the other day, Dululu is now a word in the dictionary. So it's a real word.
Which dictionary?
Literally a word now. They have identified
I'm
you.
so glad that you guys have joined me on my road to Dululu because look what it has done. Look at the greatness. I mean, I am so honored. I am privileged. I am ecstatic. I'm excited. And you guys have pushed me and groomed me and just guided with my growth, not just as a host. Let's talk about you, but as an individual and to keep me true to myself. So I say thank you. I say thank you. I say thank you. And let's talk about you. None of the seasons would be possible, not only without you ladies, but without our guests.
Mm.
We had a lineup of some strong women and men and children and a child that have said yes to being a part of this journey with me. And let's talk about you. So without further ado, let's just get into it. Let's start with episode 1 of season 6. I was
All
so
right.
excited to do that. And I have to give all of this credit to Crystal because she's like, "Oh, it's gonna be fun. Let's do it like when after the interview, let's have some questions and have this." And she came up with this whole slew of questions, and it became so funny. But I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I will say I went in there very hesitant, and it was phenomenal. We hit season 6. We hit the ground running. It was like nowhere to go but up.
Absolutely. We did. And here's a clip from a snippet, of course, just, showing our audience the tastiness, I guess, of the episode. Here we go.
Our parents, they're very close mouth about a lot of things. They didn't
Sure.
discuss things, and they came from a time where if something wasn't working, they were going to, for lack of a better word, suffer through it and not really address the elephant in the room, right? I saw my parents go through that, and then eventually they split up and they got divorced.
Especially intimacy. Why should you not know what's making your partner happy or not happy?
Because that's supposed to be an enjoyable experience, and if it's not, then we need to talk about why it isn't.
Yes.
That was a good clip. That was a good clip. I hope the volume was good. It sounded a little low, but that was an excellent clip. I want to thank all the guests that came on. Terrence Thomas, Miss Catherine, Langley, Shazar. I just want to say, and Kathleen Tyson, she's a gem because she even agreed to do Let's Talk About You more than once in this season. And she was away overseas on another event and she said yes twice. So I just want to say Thank you. Thank you guys for allowing us to hit the ground running and kicking off season 6. Oh, Kiana, do you have any add-ins to season 1, episode 1?
Well, I feel like I have two favorite parts of episode 1, and they're for two very, very different reasons. My first favorite, which it just made me laugh when she was like, when Miss Tyson Sewell, she was like, sometimes you just have to grab and go when you have a toddler. I just thought that was so funny. Just like the visual of grab and go it was very funny to me.
And it was so tasteful. She did it
It
in such an
was.
eloquent, tasteful way, but everyone knew what she meant.
And it was just
Everyone
it was just really, really funny. And I remember, like you were saying earlier, when we were even prepping before the season started, I think we were coming up with the idea because it was February, the month of love. Like, how do we do that? And then I think it was Crystal who brought up this idea of, making it about love, yes, but also about intimacy and things of that nature. And I know that made you a little bit uncomfortable because it wasn't something that you dived into on this platform before. And you're like, is the audience going to be okay with it? Is it going to be too much? Is it going to be... But I think it ended up being perfect. It was such a fun way to start the season. But it was also such a real way to start the season because, yes, they talked about that. But they also talked about, the real parts of relationships. And I remember, oh, Lord, I forgot his last name. Thomas was talking about after the hurricanes, Irma and Maria, him and his wife were homeless because their house was destroyed, and talking about how their marriage was tested at that time because homelessness is hard for anyone when you're by yourself. But imagine you have a family. Imagine that you're the provider for that family and you're not able to provide in a way that you have been before through no fault of your own, of course. But I feel like that could test even the strongest marriages. So the fact that he was so open to being so vulnerable about that, I really, really enjoyed. And I also really enjoyed, everyone speaking about keep holding yourself and your partner accountable, because I feel like in a lot of situations, people are easy to hold someone else accountable, but not themselves. And I feel like every single one of those guests talked about holding yourself accountable in a relationship and even gave advice to young people, young men specifically. I remember the two men gave advice to young men specifically about, working through a relationship and, the hardships that you can expect to go through and kind of how to deal with that. I love that we touched on all ends of the spectrum of love and intimacy, from very, very funny to very, very serious. So I really, really enjoyed this opening to season 6.
I loved it too. And one point that I wanted to add to this is that we had, someone that was married and had to start over, someone, been married for a long time, and someone that was single and working on preparing for the next step. So I think that, you guys did a great job. Crystal was putting the show together with the ideas. And Kiana, when you did your editing and cut for the infomercial, you really picked the great pieces to entice the audience to want to see it. So thank you, ladies. Thank you, ladies, so much. Excellent, excellent.
Crystal, do you have a favorite part of the episode at all?
I mean, I loved it all. I mean, obviously, I'm actually a proponent of talking about intimacy because it's such a big part of our lives. I feel like that's something that we neglect. There's, a friend of mine, she was also building a conference and she wanted to add pleasure, like a woman's pleasure. So she had a woman's health, a woman's business, all these things. And when she got to the topic of pleasure, it was also like this challenge, because it's such a taboo conversation in itself. We've made it, not so much that it is, but we've made it such a taboo conversation. And it was also, for me, the entire conversation was just an important one because it almost like cracked the ceiling in what types of conversations we can have on the show. So that was like a pivotal move in some ways for Let's Talk About You on a whole, to say, no, we're going to challenge some of the things that we haven't necessarily touched on or people shy away from. And I feel like we, just overall the whole season, you could see the shift in the season because of that opening. I feel like once you in any conversation, once you get through the uncomfortableness of it, it's almost like a floodgate. It's like, oh, we can have this conversation. Okay, let's talk about all the other things.
And that's exactly what you guys did. It was like, I don't know if I want to talk about that. I don't know how the audience is going to react to it, but they loved it. And, kudos to you, Crystal. I have to give you the credit for putting every single ounce. You're like, I'll do it. It'll be fine. And it was excellent. And speaking about, picking pieces to make sure that we do the right thing and getting things going, I will say, I loved all the shows, but episode 2, talking about women's and reproductive rights and, us knowing to advocate for ourselves, that was the most intimidating. But yes, I wanted to do it. It was so deliciously something that I wanted to talk about because I was so passionate about it. But it was a little leery because I didn't want the message to be, oh, she's advocating for abortion. I wasn't advocating for anything other than women's rights. And I wanted to make sure that it was done tastefully. It was very informed, to make it as informative as possible. And I had 2 great guests, Dr. Deborah Wright-Hugh and attorney Onika Gilliam. And those 2 ladies definitely nailed it for me. And what also was so particular, because of the times that we're in, I wanted to make sure that we not only covered information that was sensitive and accurate, it was just all the disclaimers. We were researching the disclaimers, the exact way to do it. We put it in the infomercial. We put it before the show. I mentioned it throughout the show. So that was just really, really important for me. And that show really tested me because I was really leery about doing it, but I really, really wanted to do it. And as Crystal said, after, even though things make you uncomfortable, after you do it, it's done. And it was just a sigh of relief during the conversation. I was just, I'm doing it. I'm already in it. I'm reveling in it. So let's bring a clip from episode 2.
We don't know what's coming next. And right now, contraception is not on the table, but who knows what's going to happen tomorrow.
True. And that's good to know that she's advocating for herself, because
Absolutely.
we need to know that we have to be able to advocate for ourselves, or have sisters like you 2 that would assist us with advocating. How do I advocate for myself?
And, you don't want to find out that your doctor has their own conscious objection in the middle of them needing to make a decision about your medical care. You should know that before you start, right? So, what is your doctor's opinions and beliefs?
That show really is still close to my heart, and I think that I got the message across. I had some comments afterwards. Some people reached out to me, and I know that the demographic can alter, but certain people from a certain demographic reached out to me, and they said it was well done. I appreciate the information that they brought forth. I didn't think of it in that perspective. It was very informative. Good job. And that's exactly what I wanted. And it was as if they were reading my mind, and I was very appreciative of that. So, Crystal, what was your take on that episode?
I think One, kudos to us, of course, first of all, for even wanting to take this on. As you said, you really pushed for us to have this episode and finding the right people who can speak on it without bias, without opinions, upholding our disclaimer that we will provide the information, but it is, and I feel like we delivered well, which is the clip that we shared, that we should advocate for each other or advocate for ourselves if we have to, and find out the right information, and don't leave it just to the law or your doctor or everyone else, because it's still your body and you need to be able to take care of your body in the way that you want it to be taken care of. So I think that was actually like the takeaway for me, and it was such a significant part of the conversation, advocacy for ourselves and for our friends and family.
Yeah. Kiana?
I was obviously familiar with the situation, and I was one of the, I guess part of the reason that we really wanted to focus more on being informative rather than opinion based, at least in my role in the show. Because I'm not gonna share my public opinion about that. But what I will say is I loved the show because of how informative it was, and we had experts in the field. Yes, we did our research beforehand, and the research and the timeline was something that I was already mostly familiar with just because of my job. But I'm glad that I was able to sort of convey that in a way that was hopefully understandable to other people who aren't quite following it as closely. But also having attorney Gilliam and then Dr. Wright Hugh, they are there because they work on two sides of this field. Yes, this is a health issue, but this is also a legal issue. So it was very interesting doing both sides, and I attorney Gilliam being so willing to, even if she was like, oh, I'm not so familiar with XYZ, let me read up on it before the show. You could see how eager they were to share.
Yeah, she was open. I mean, kudos to her.
Yeah, and her openness to share her own experience with her mother, who she says in the 60s fought for reproductive rights. And now to see, Roe versus Wade be overturned, her experience in that being, this is what I know my mother fought for, and now I know that this is being reversed. This is how I'm feeling about her work and where that stands now. And then Dr. Wright Hugh going with, this is what I've seen. This is what my patients are going through. I love humanizing this story because I feel like with a lot of stories like this, people can get too political about it. And at the end of the day, this is someone's health. This is someone's body. This is someone's livelihood. This is someone's life. People can die. People have died. That is not opinion. That is not politics. That is a fact. People have already died. And it really, the conversation about bodily autonomy, and then how that can tie into the young lady from Georgia who was brain dead and kept alive for months. All that happened beforehand, but it was all sort of a precursor for people to be aware of what's to come and look out for what's to come and advocate for themselves. And I feel like that advocacy can go beyond healthcare. That advocacy can go with public safety. That advocacy can go with standing up for yourself. That advocacy, speaking up with yourself, yes, is something that can be used in the medical field, but it's something that you can take with you in every aspect of your life as well. So I really, really, really enjoyed how thorough this show was and how people were able to humanize these stories rather than politicize them.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely, Attorney Gilliam and Dr. Wright Hugh, they definitely humanized the topic and made it tangible and relatable. And, you were able, some of the audience that reached out to me were able to understand the situation and not just think of it as either that or this, how it blurred and went together. And I really, really needed that show to happen. And I'm so glad you two were on there to make it happen. So kudos to both of you once again. Even when we talk about, things about reproductive rights and relationships. It's all our everyday lives. It's real. It's not, and it's definitely about you. So let's talk about you, ... Fill in the blanks. All the information that we bring forth here, let's talk about you. Definitely is about you, the individual, the community, the whole person. And, it was great that, Kiana had the opportunity to go to a seminar for work and find, I would say, material that was tangible in a human to say, she would be great for this show. Let me tell the team about this. And I was like, yes, bring it on, because we need to know about this, especially in this time and age. And, we as well, I'm going to just say, as I know, we as Caribbean people, we don't always talk about money. Maybe the conversation is happening more, but it was just a certain few, or it was generalized, but it was never a true conversation. Let's make a plan. Let's make it plain. Let's make it clear. It was never that type of thing. And when I was having conversations with Kiana about finances, it was based on my personal knowledge, because I didn't dive in to find out more things. It was a little bit more than basic, but the certain things that I told her, like, when you go to college, they're going to send you all these things to get credit cards. Don't sign up for any. Don't do that. I don't want you to get down, get in debt, and you don't need to, and don't do this and don't do that. But some of the things that I was telling her not to do, it wasn't really helping. Case in point, her junior year, she needed an apartment. To have an apartment, you need credit. If you don't have credit, then you need someone to sign up for you. And she's like, Ma, I don't have credit. I need you to co-sign for. That doesn't make any sense. And you know who broke it? I mean, then I found out why. But it even came more to life when we had Lindsay Peel. She is a young, energetic, educated young lady that she has a plethora of knowledge. And the name of her company is Kingdom Finances, I think. And she came on the show and she hit the ground running. Even before I get into anything else, Crystal, run the tape. Let everyone see what I'm talking about.
Right. We should not be out here just spending and swiping and giving our money away without having a plan for it. Because one, you're not going to get rich off of somebody's job. And also, two, those 1% to 2% raises every year just ain't going to cut it. It's just not going to cut it. And even when you retire, sometimes the little income that we have from retirement still got you living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, she touched on points, every single thing. I mean, I could have had her on the show for every single episode this season, and it would still be something new to learn about finances and getting your finances right. Kiana, tell us, since you're the one that found Ms. Peel, tell us about your experience to having her on the show.
So I actually saw it. It wasn't a work event, but it was something that I had seen through a journalism group that I was part of. One of the people who was part of that who spoke at a meeting for that journalism group, I had that contact information. She worked for another company who was hosting this. So that's sort of how I found it. And I know we were talking about doing something related to finance, but we just didn't know what yet. And I saw this finance seminar panel. And so I figured that would be good for the show to check it out, but that's also would just be good for me to get my finances together. I think everyone needs to, no matter where you stand financially, I think you can always stand to take a second look at your finances. So I went and I thought that it was really informative, and I thought that she broke things down in a way that was really understandable and tangible, and not like the dumb advice that drives me up a wall. Don't have a coffee every day. Don't have an avocado toast, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, girl, I don't drink coffee. So now what? What do you want me to do? So her stuff was actually tangible. And if she didn't know an answer to something, she was very willing to say, I'm actually not sure about that. I have to look into that and then I'll get back to you, rather than just trying to make something up. So that's something that I truly appreciated. Her knowledge and her transparency when she didn't know something. And one of the things that stood out to me, which is part of the reason that I brought her on the show, and something that I've been doing, granted not every month, but I have been doing, are the money dates, where you just one day a month. Mine is the 8th of every month, even though it hasn't been every month. I'm just going to be transparent, but it has been a lot of them. At once a month at least. Sometimes she says every 2 weeks, maybe that's when you get paid. But once a month, you sit down, you look at how much money came in this week, how much money went out this week, how much money came in this month, how much money went out this month, and how much money and what you're spending that money on. See what you can adjust based on your goals. If your goals is to build your savings, how can you maybe increase your salary or decrease your spending? If your goal is, I don't know, going on vacation, how do you do that? If your goal is to invest more in a 401k, how do you find the 401k plans that work best for you? Are the plans that you're invested in now doing well, or whatever? I know that you can't really see those changes when it comes to 401k month to month because it's more long term, but it gives you an idea of where your money is going. And when I did that, I got a very, very strong reality check about what was coming in and what was going out. And I was like, okay, I need to change some things, because I don't think I am terrible with money, but I do think sometimes I'm like, you know what, I don't feel like cooking, let's just eat out. Maybe I should do this instead. Or, why not have my heat on full blast? Why not take 30-minute showers? Maybe let's not do that. Maybe let's turn the heat down a little bit if it's not super cold. In the summer, I don't have my air conditioning on. I do have central air, but I don't have air conditioning on because I don't mind being a little warm. But just see what adjustments you can make in your life. And then if you're doing the best that you can financially, like if you're spending all your money on necessities, which I will say most of my money does go to necessities. If you're spending all your money on necessities and you still find yourself in a financial hole, then it might be time to consider getting a second job or getting another higher paying job. So I just really thought that I learned a lot from her seminar. So I figured she would have a lot to offer to the show, which I think she did.
She did. She absolutely did. And I definitely want her back for another season, because it was definitely, and the relationships dealt with finances. Because when Mr. Thomas talked about how his family was challenged, it was because, they had to wait on, and I'm not saying, I don't know their financial situations, and I'm not going to speculate. But the point is, they touched on it, and then we brought it back in to talk about the whole picture with regards to finances. Mm-hmm. And, when we advocate for ourselves, sometimes finances make a play. So in almost everything we do, finance is right there in our face. Right.
And I'm glad you mentioned advocacy, because just like I was touching on it with episode 2, Ms. Peel also talked about advocating for yourself, building relationships with people in financial fields, building relationships with your banker, building relationships with your accountant, building relationships with someone at your insurance company. And I know I'm not going to talk too much about this now, because I know we'll mention a little bit later, but we end the season, talking about insurance and the importance of insuring yourself. So that sort of carried us through the entire episode. The advocacy touched in multiple episodes. Taking care of your finances touched on in multiple episodes. I love the interconnectedness that this season had, because everything had a place and everything tied back to something.
Absolutely.
It definitely did. Crystal, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think just on that exact point that Kiana just made on, every piece kind of weaved into each other was very beautiful, unplanned, but beautifully done. But I feel like it's because finances is that one key piece that if you don't have it, or you're struggling in that area, it affects or impacts better word, every aspect of your life. So I feel I too would love to have maybe not even a 1-hour session. We could have Miss Peel, just put her in a room and we could listen to her talk for
just the 3 of us have a session, right? I agree.
We could just have a session. because of course she left us with some homework, which I did start. But as Kiana said, I'm not consistently doing it every single month. So I do have the budget kind of spread out now, and I could see where the money is going. But just now coming back to how do we address it, as Kiana just said, like how do we fix, some of our bad spending habits, and where do we reallocate money? Because food is that one thing. When I had a good look at our grocery bill, and it's just my mom and I was a bit shocked at how much money we spend on food in a month, between groceries and eating out and everything else. I'm like, what do we eat? But regardless, it's until you put it down on paper and you look at it, then you start to see these big gaps in things that you can cut back on, even on a tight budget where you're only spending on necessities. I think there's always room for flexibility, but even so, there must be a conversation around how do we bring in more income into our homes without burnout as well. So I think there's lots of conversation to be had in the finance section of our lives, Yeah.
Because a lot of people.
Go ahead, Kiana.
I was just saying, because a lot of people, I like that you mentioned making more money without burnout, because a lot of people have two jobs, at least not because they want extra money, but just because they want to get by, because everything is so expensive. That's why I even mentioned at the end that sometimes you're doing everything you can, you're not spending excessively anywhere, everything is a necessity, and you're still drowning financially. And it's because things have gotten so expensive. And, it is hard to try to find a way to stay afloat without two jobs, but it's also hard to have two jobs and be able to live your life and experience life and be a person, So that is a very interesting balance.
That's a true statement. It is definitely a true statement. And also to piggyback on your point, Crystal, about, your grocery bill, everyone knows that my dad lives with me. Well, we live together.
That's his house.
And he does not like to eat leftovers. And believe it or not, before he came to live with me, I was like, oh, I'm an empty nester. I mean, my niece was living with me as well. But after Kiana went off to college and, doing her thing, my niece came to live with me. But, I cooked or we would eat out a lot, but it definitely cost. And the fact that Daddy doesn't like leftovers, and I have to make sure that he has a meal every single day. I cook 7 days a week. And it definitely has changed the trajectory of things for me, because I'm actually going to the store and using what I have, instead of saying, oh, the food looks good in the refrigerator, and then throwing out all the bad things because it wasn't used. I don't have that problem anymore.
Because you're cooking every single day.
I'm cooking every single day. And it really does make a difference. So, at first it was like, oh my gosh, I have to cook. Not that I don't dislike cooking, but in my mind is like, I'm tasked to do it every single day. I didn't always want to do it. But now I so appreciate it, because, so many things, after the move and so forth, and I'm pinching pennies to make sure that I don't spend badly. It is an asset, the fact that I have to cook what I have. And when we don't have certain things, I become creative with the menu.
That's right. And cooking also kind of saves you so much money.
It does, instead of eating out, because it's like, that money was just
fleeting.
Yes.
To say the least. And
with my eating and my food allergies as well. So I have a specific place that I'll have to go to, because I know only they would cater to, well, maybe other places would, but that was the place that I knew would cater to my dietary needs. And it wasn't inexpensive at all. It was costly. So now I prepare exactly what I need. I know exactly what's going into my food. I know exactly what, so it's a win-win now. It's such a win-win. What I thought was a challenge was definitely a pleasure. And that brings me into talking about care. Being a caregiver it's an eye-opener, because for me it's not challenging, but to watch the highs and the lows and the different trajectory, because this was the person that grew me, raised me. He's always been my ride of life. Always. I've always been a daddy's girl. It's not something new. If you know Camilla, you know she's always been. It's just a given. But you know, in this stage of both of our lives, I'm almost like, I don't want to say the parent, but it's to the point that it's my rules I have to prepare for, I have to plan for. And it's watching this strong, independent person grasp to try to hold on to his independence, because at 97, he's still going strong. He's still doing what he wants to do, especially going in the garden when I don't want him to. But, you know.
Right.
And it was great to have someone from the Department of Human Services to agree to be a part of Let's Talk About You, to tell us the importance of being a caregiver and what it is and what it means. Roll the clip, Crystal.
Perfect. Yes.
One of the great things about being an adult is being independent, making your own choices, your own decisions, doing what you want when you want, that kind of thing. So losing your independence is really, really a big thing. And being dependent on someone, and persons who have to be dependent, no choice of their own really, may be feeling in a vulnerable position. And they may be feeling depressed. They may have some moments of sadness. But it's up to the caregiver too, like we just mentioned, treat them with respect and dignity. Give them choices, what to wear, what to eat. Make them part of their caring process. So you can be more like a care partner. So both of you are working together to help your loved one in their day-to-day activities. So talk to them with respect, involve them in decisions that affect them, and just make it easy for them to smile.
I love that part of the clip. And what made me smile internally when she was saying it, I heard Kiana's voice in the back of my head, you know, and it was just like, wah, 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 in the back, because I would say, Daddy, you're doing this, we're doing that. And Kiana, whenever she's here or she's on the phone, we're having a conversation. Did you ask him if he wanted to do that? Did you ask him what he wanted to wear? Did you ask? And it was just like, I don't know if you saw the blank look on my face turning away.
Was I wrong?
Absolutely not. I'll answer for you.
Okay.
And I had a good chuckle because as you guys know,
did Kiana and Bradley have a conversation?
I paid her.
It up on you.
I paid her off to clear.
Oh, goody. Yeah, I enjoyed that clip as well. No, I was saying I enjoyed that clip as well because Ms. Bradley so gently kind of suggested that caregivers kind of take the time to ask their loved ones, whomever they're taking care of, to share in that, because it's such a hard thing. And I have the same issue with my mom because, of course, my mom and I also live together. And as she gets older, you're taking over more of her decision making, because some of her decisions aren't necessarily in line with her care and what's necessary at the time. But either way, I loved her suggestion, Ms. Bradley's suggestion, on sharing and asking as much as we can, because caregivers, we know sometimes that is not possible because based on your schedule, your own schedule, what you got to get done that day. I mean, we don't have time to discuss it. Somebody just needs to decide what needs to happen and we need to move on. However, as an adult, I can only imagine becoming an adult, living to become an adult, and then having to lose that autonomy is a big, so I could appreciate her advice to persons like you and I, Camilla.
Yes, I needed that. And sometimes when I'm frustrated, I would say, Kiana, you just put me in a home. I was like, but you have to check on me.
Yeah, but in the home, they're gonna tell you what to do too. Because they don't want-
Exactly.
I've
So,
seen him.
you know, it's just I know that it's definitely not what I want, but you know, when in that heat and passion, and I prefer to vent to her. So she's probably like, okay, get it out. Now, did you ask?
Correct. But what I will say though, is that it is hard to ask grandpa to make a decision, because it's like, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to do. That,
Right.
and I understand how that's frustrating, because I'm like,
And
can
he's
you
like the wife
slow?
for Coming to America, whatever you like.
And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what do you want to eat? Whatever food day. What? How is the food? Eatable. Hello? What does that mean?
Eatable. Oh.
I'm about to crash out. What do you mean it's eatable? Just say this is the best thing you've ever had in your life. Don't like,
Especially having to cook a fresh meal every time.
every meal, every day.
Every
I
day,
do that
twice
for
a
what-
day.
when I go home, I try to take up a little bit of the cooking work, at least, because my mom already has so much going on. I know she said that caregiving isn't stressful, but I'm stressed looking at it, so I don't understand what she means by that.
You know,
but-
I probably should have added to this clip. I didn't even think of it until just now. You know, one of the times you would ask, how's the food eatable? And then you see the plate to the head.
The head in the plate. I'm gonna find a picture while y'all talk, because I have a picture. All right. Anyways,
We don't have to
no.
put that, even if we put it to the, and I know I put a lot on you today, Crystal, but I mean,
Oh
we're going to
my
have to
goodness.
put one of those plate pictures of about
it's so
the food
ridiculous.
is eatable.
So that I understand, but I also feel like there is a way to do choice without leaving it open ended. Daddy, you want fungi, you want rice, you want chicken,
Right.
you want fish, you want to wear this
Yeah.
shirt, you want to wear that shirt. You don't just leave it open ended, because I feel like that gets very, very overwhelming.
Yes.
But you still give the option of choice. And this is something that I've been trying to pitch. So hopefully on this public platform I can pitch it. Is giving him, he's always going in the garden. He know he's not supposed to. And then he gets upset when my mother gets upset. But I'm like, you're not supposed to be there. You can hurt yourself. You digging up stuff that was just planted. You're not supposed to be there. You know that. You understand that. But I'm like, you know he's gonna go in the garden anyways. He's not supposed to give him a garden project. This little plot is your plot, or give him a couple plants. These plants are your plants. This is what you take care of. Anything else, don't do. This you do.
I agree with that. I have
That's
to
my
interject.
proposal,
I
and
gave him, I must interject. I have given him projects, but one of the problems that I've seen with the projects that I've given him is to the back of the yard. No one can see the back of the yard. He wants
True.
his work to be displayed to everybody.
Because he wants to be like,
Why
He
you want
wants
him
when
in
you
that?
walk up the
Look,
steps, it's like,
Plunkett.
oh, Mr. Francis did this, Plunkett did this, you know?
That's right.
But in the back, you can't see that.
That's true. But
So
the back
I have
is the
taken
safest
that
because
advice
it's-
with giving
it's
him projects
stable.
where it's flat, it's he can reach it, it's accessible, but it's not visible for everybody to see. You
Mhm.
literally have to take them to see. So he doesn't want to take them to see his work. He wants the work to be bam right
Seen.
there.
Yeah,
And the only way you can get that is being where I don't want him to be.
because it's not safe. and I understand that, but I've just, gardening is such a big part of his life.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it has been for such a long time. And in Antioch, he has such a beautiful plot of land that he worked like daily. So I understand, what Ms. KB was saying is, you get to, and what Crystal was just saying is you get to a point where you've been so independent for all this time. And now all of a sudden the person who you raised is trying to quote unquote raise you. You telling me what I can't do? Well, yes, I'm telling you what you can't do because you can't do it. Like physically
Literally.
it's hard on you. Like you can't. Like that's just not something that you are able to do as easily as you were able to do 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I can't imagine what that must feel like to slowly feel yourself losing a piece of your autonomy. And I know that we mentioned this as a joke sometimes. Grandpa at 96 years old was like, well, me old. Hello? You're 96. You've been old for at least 20
A
years.
minute.
Like, I don't know what you're talking about. But
I was like, wait, what?
but it's funny to listen to because I'm like, that's ridiculous. But also it's like you kind of understand where he is mentally because I feel like that's the point in his life where he realized,
Right.
I'm not who I was when I was
Exactly.
40,
I can't
50,
do what I used to do. And it took him
and even if I can do
age
it, I can't do it
96 to
as
get to that.
easily. So yeah.
And I would not trade him for the world.
He's
That's
funny.
that's
I love
that's
that
my
man.
right of life. He really is.
He is so funny.
Looking at me like talking about me, look with this puzzled look. I'm hearing you, but should I talk?
Also, an
boy.
important thing to mention was not only the focus on taking care of who are being cared of, but caregivers taking care of themselves, and that's
Yes.
part of like the support group that is being provided, and that's part of what you can do. Go to this place, go to this organization, and speak to people who are going through something similar, and be able to find a community who can understand what it is that you're going through. Because
There's definitely a
caregiving
community,
is
and they
just
do
hard on
have
the caregiver.
in addition to the conversations for you to download, they definitely have seminars to feed you, to feed your spirit, feed your soul with, different things of what to expect when you're dealing with your loved ones and guide you. So I truly enjoy the organization. And what's easy for me, first it was just that you had to go to the venue. That didn't work for me, and it still doesn't. But the fact that I could do it over the phone and listen to the conversation and participate, that works for me. And I say kudos to them. Kudos for having this organization because it's definitely necessary. And one thing that I would mention about, go back to talk about, Daddy is a gardener. He loves the soil. He loves the earth. And not only is it something that gives him joy, it's what he knows to do. And it's also his soothing place, because I know to be 97 years old, you've gone through some things. Some he mentions, some he doesn't. But I feel like when, I don't want to say triggered, or when he feels like he's having a thought or he's fussing with himself, I would see him go to the garden, and that would be his solace. And that made me think about the episode that we had with Dr. Kerry Williams when she talked about trauma and trauma responses. And that was a powerful, episode, because there's so many times that we go through certain things and we're taught to pray about it, it'll get better, or don't tell people your business because we don't know them and this is a family matter and we don't need any outsider knowing our business, or just don't share, deal with it, or get over it. It happened. Okay, so move on. And all of that, those responses, it comes out on the other end with your health, just so many other ways. Crystal should have clipped, and then we'll get back into it some more.
Here we go.
What this journaling do for me, it helps release that trauma. It's going to name it. Because if we keep it in our head is round, so it's just going to keep coming back. We talk about when good things happen, but then when bad things happen, especially in our community, we're going to sweep it under the rug. But if you keep sweeping stuff under the rug, you're going to trip over it. Sometimes acknowledging that you were hurt, it's hard.
It is hard.
But my mom made it through it. Well, you're not your mom. My friend went through so much more. You're not your friend, and your trauma is valid.
I love that. You're not your mom, you're not your friend. Your trauma is valid. So many different, times you hear, oh, somebody have it worse. I never liked that statement.
Hate it.
I never, ever liked that statement. I'm going through this, but I know someone always going to be going through something. And why do we diminish what we feel to try to make us feel better? And that's a trigger response in itself. someone else is going through worse. Okay.
Like, what I gotta do with me?
Exactly.
Literally.
And
I
I've
gotta
said
do
that
with me.
too, I've said, so what I have to do with me? And I was told that I was selfish. And I was like,
whatever.
Sorry that I'm a person with emotions and feelings.
yeah,
Hello?
exactly. So she really broke things down for me. It helped me understand a lot of things that happened in my life, a lot of things that, when I listened to the conversations about Daddy and what he's talked about and how he grew up and his family dynamics, and the fact that he would walk down the stairs and go into the garden in the place that I don't want him to go. We need to find whatever our reprieve is to give us that peace. And that brings him peace. Drives me crazy, but it gives him peace.
Yeah.
And that is important. And it doesn't, at that point, sometimes, not all the time, because I would be a liar if I said all the time. Sometimes I would just try to overlook, depending on where he's positioned in the garden, I would just try to overlook it and figure maybe he needs that. But I get it. We need to find out what it is that's going on. And I love the statement, if you keep brushing things under the rug, someone else has it worse. Get over it. Move on. Pray about it. You're just creating a whole mountain hole. And you will trip, you will fall on your face, and falling on your face based on that discussion was you're going to get sick. You are going to be more withdrawn. You're going to have mental issues, mental decline. It's just so many different things because your body holds on to the trauma and it's going to come out somewhere or the other.
Right.
What's your take on that?
I think she was saying at one point when you were mentioning that with sweeping things under the rug, that her and anger are sisters, something like that. Yeah. And I think that is so true because even in our own lives, I've seen people who are hurt and they've held in that hurt to a point where they allow that hurt to turn into anger based on whatever scenario they're coming up with in their head. Because to a lot of people, it's easier to express anger than hurt. To a lot of people, anger is a lot more socially acceptable than to admit you're hurt, because sometimes it can be embarrassing. It shouldn't be, but sometimes it can be embarrassing to say that I'm hurt right now. You hurt my feelings, or this situation is hurtful and I feel hurt. That is a lot more vulnerable for a lot of people than just expressing and displaying anger. So part of that sweeping under the rug is you're just angry at everything and everyone, and you're misplacing your anger somewhere else when really you need to be addressing the hurt and what has caused that. Yeah. And that's hard to do. It's hard to do, but it's something that's so necessary. And that's also why I think that it's important to talk about it. If someone hurt you, tell them that they hurt you. If you are being hurt in a vulnerable position and you need to tell someone, find a trusted person and tell them, because now years and years and years later, you finally mustered up the courage, and rightfully so, because no one should give you a timeline about when to process what you're going through. But sometimes it takes years to process trauma. And now you finally brought it up to the person who either inflicted that trauma on you, or the person you felt needed to protect you was their role. And then the response, instead of being met with an understanding, sometimes the response is, why didn't you tell me before? What am I supposed to do about that now? And that's hurtful to hear, because not only did my feelings feel invalidated then and I was so scared, but it took me years to finally muster up the courage to tell you this thing that was hurtful and how I feel your role was in that and how you could have helped me. And your response is, you should have told me earlier. That's all you have to say. Yeah. I just feel like it's so complex because processing takes such a long time or a short time, just depending on who you are. But I think that it really is brave. I don't want to put a timeline or a rush in anyone. However you need to handle what you're going through is how you need to handle it. But I do appreciate Dr. Carey telling you to, even if you don't go out and tell someone, sit with yourself and find whatever it is that you're feeling. If you're mad, are you really mad, or are you embarrassed? Are you hurt? Are you confused? do you feel bamboozled? Like, really sit with yourself and try to think about what your emotion is outside of just pure happiness, sadness, anger. And I really did appreciate that. And I also appreciate, going back to all the shows tying together, her acknowledgement of hurricanes as a trauma.
Yes.
It was mentioned in the first episode. It was mentioned in this episode. It was mentioned in the last episode because there was a storm passing by north of you guys during the insurance episode. So that is also a topic that has carried out through everything, because I remember, Mom, you were telling me that you were hearing from people who were like still traumatized from the hurricanes and really nervous about when that hurricane, not even passing over you guys, passing above to the north of you, but some people were still traumatized from that experience because it was so harrowing for so many people, and they just really haven't addressed it in a professional way, or in a way that, you know, they really need to sit with it and understand why it is they're still feeling this way and how they can help themselves. So I just thought that her episode was really, really important, and it touched on lots of things about how to take care of yourself and how to really sit with your emotion even when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
was your take, Crystal?
No, I think one of the biggest takes for me on this is kind of when we started to come to the place that we're starting to realize these conversations are so pivotal, because one, we knew that we were having more open dialogue, but this one really sat with me because I would have lost my brother just recently, watching my mother go through her grieving process, and not necessarily having the words to communicate, how we deal with the trauma of that experience, and just having that understanding that everybody grieves in a different way, because grief is such a significant part of trauma, and you have these constant reminders of the person, their birthday, the holiday, the triggers that remind you of your trauma, whichever one you have, is something that we don't talk about as a community, or even in our own individual families. Discussions around trauma is almost non-existent for a lot of us, and us just having these conversations allowed me to think about it a little more deeper, maybe we should talk about it, or maybe we should see how you feel, or discuss these things. And I'm not great at, just generally being transparent, I'm not great at talking about things, because I process things at my own time. I sit with it in my own time. I deal with it on my own. I do what I have to do. So I do a lot of the internal work, but let's say the community work, or the people around me, or everyone else who's involved in the matter, I'm pretty much, if you come to talk, I'll talk, but not that I'm going to come to you or anything else. And just from this conversation that we had with Kerry, and her kind of, Miss Williams, really, her discussing how much we kind of sweep under the rug. I think that was a good reminder for me that this is something that you need to be a bit more conscious of, because it's not just a you experience, it's a collective experience. And yeah, I feel like that we hit the nail on the head. And I loved what was interesting with Miss Kerry is that she loved trauma, and I think that was a shocker for all of us. But I think her heart is she loves inspiring people to talk about trauma, so that we can actually address it. So changing the narrative around trauma itself, so that we can talk more. So not making it a stigma, not making it something negative, but really addressing it holistically so that we can heal. And that was really her kind of message. Do the work so that you can heal and we can live better lives. So that's what I loved and took away from her experience, her conversation.
It was just so many different factors for me, because I could relate to the fact of, there was an incident some years back that it took me a year to address the person, that was behind just a lot of things that was going on. And she listened, and she was like, I don't know what to say because it's a year later. And I told her, I understand that you would say that, but it took me this time to say what I needed to say the way that I needed to say it, because I was so in my feelings, and I was so hurt and angry, and the carload of emotions, It would not have been nice. I would have said all the things that I was feeling. It may not have been tasteful, but this is when I could say every single thing that I needed to say the way I needed to say it so you can hear and understand. So, when someone comes back a year later, it's like, I can't believe they bring that up. And what do they want me to do now? No, they brought it up because now they needed to address it. So we're not all on the same page. We're not all on the same timeline. And Crystal, like you said, you need time to process things yourself. Don't fault yourself for that. Yes, we all are growth in process. We're all work in progress. But as you said, you have to bring it to the community. But you have to do that in your timing, when you feel like you can do it. And even though it may seem like you're the man, woman that's standing alone, you need to do what's right for you in that time, to do the work on you in order for you to take the next step. And that's what she was talking about. Normalize these things. Normalize your emotions and your feelings. And I always say it, and I'll say it again, and she shared it. Feel your feelings. They are valid. Period.
Period.
And I love that. I truly love that. And one thing I would also address, I know that we're not going to show a clip of that. We also did a show, Healthy Encores, and we spoke about different topics that they were lining up to bring forth in at Healthy Encores. And one of the segments at that health fair that we had in July, we had psychologists and psychiatrists and just counselors to help people talk about whatever. And I think that was just the ideal. That was my favorite part of that health fair, that people could come and have that part of it. Because you could check your pressure, you could check, your biometrics and all of that. But at the end of the day, if your mind isn't right, it can affect the biometrics, the pressure, and everything else. So we need to realize that our mind is so powerful. We also had, a great return guest. We had Rhea James. She was a guest in one of my previous sessions years and years ago. And, then she was a young author, and now she's a 14-year-old author with 4 books.
Still a young author.
Still a young author. She's still a young author, but she was younger, She was younger, but now she's a teenage author. Let me say it that way.
Right.
Now she's a teenage author, and it was great to have her on. And her mom was a pop-up guest on that show. I wasn't expecting that. And Catherine or Tyson, she's just such a gem. She came back on for that episode in the middle of her conference. She left her conference to come on to that show, that episode, and talk about how she fostered and dealt with her now grown children, and and fostered and nurtured their passions and their interests. And now she's starting over again with a young one. Mm-hmm. And Rhea James, she talked about, giving advice, how she was chimed on first by her teacher, who thought her book was such, her assignment, what started as a school assignment ended up being a published book. So, little is much when God is in it. That's Absolutely. A great thing. We can't take things for granted. Everything we're doing have a purpose and a cause. Look how a book report caused that to happen. And when I first heard her story, it made me think of when Kiana was in 6th grade, and they had to write poems. Her poems was one of the poems that was selected to be in the newspaper. And I still have it framed to this day. All the students that they have selected poems that were published in the Daily News. And, when I told my one friend, I'm giving this to Kiana as a present. She's like, present? I was like, yeah. She's like, but kids like toys. I was like, my child is going to appreciate her stuff being in a frame.
Yeah, you want to be remembered for the great things that you do. I think as parents, we sometimes forget that. But I say as parents as if I have children. Anyway. But I think parents oftentimes forget that just the recognition and acknowledging the dreams of your kids is such an important part. And I love that episode because we were highlighting how parents support their kids' dream while also kind of, as Catherine said, walking out their own visions, keeping their visions intact, but also giving their kids the opportunity to explore different career paths, because kids change their mind every day. So the twists and turns of the changes, but also honoring their creative process to finding that thing that is really speaks to who they are as an individual at that time in their life, because obviously they don't have to do this for the rest of our life. I often hate when people say, I hate the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? They don't know. They have an idea.
And when you're grown, you still don't know what you want to be. It changes.
It changes so often. And even so, just career wise, you can have multiple careers throughout your life. I think that's, for me, that's always like a stickler. I feel like we can't do one thing. We can do one thing, but we don't have to only do one thing. That's what I'm trying to say. I think I find it beautiful that Rhea, at a young age got published and she's done this thing, but that doesn't mean that that's what she wants to be when she grows up, because sometimes people like to put you in a box, like, okay, now you're an author, you're gonna write for the rest of your life
forever.
Necessarily. She might just take a whole different career path. But just the fact that she has the support where she's at right now is beautiful.
I agree. Diana?
I really, really enjoyed this show because, again, Rhea was on the show, I think, in 2021, I want to say. So to see her still sticking with it and being part of new projects and stuff, but still being a kid, a child, I think that's really exciting. But I also kind of want to talk a little bit about the process to get here, because we were talking about, we wanted to do something with dreams and with kids, and we were like, how do we tie this together? Like, we had ideas, but they were kind of separate. We're trying to figure out a way to sort of combine them. So it was really, really great that we were able to get Miss Sewell Tyson back on the show, because she is raising kids from two different generations, really. And sometimes the dreams of one generation are different from the dreams of the next. When I was 8, I wouldn't have dreamed of being a TikToker because TikTok didn't exist. You know what I mean? Right. So dreams like that often change. Sometimes they stay the same. There's still people who want to be doctors, lawyers, firefighters, writers, whatever. But sometimes, you have to deal with a changing landscape of, this wasn't a career when I was a child. So a lot of people are like, this isn't a real career. This isn't real. Being an influencer isn't real. Being a this isn't real. Being an actor, even at some point, I was like, that's not a real job. But it is, because it's a job that people have and are making money. Therefore, it's a real job. So it's really interesting to try to point that out to parents and be like, hey, this might look different, but here's how someone has fostered their child's creativity in this way. Even though writing is more traditional, you can still apply that support, and how Rhea said that she was supported, and how Miss Tyson Sewell said she supported her kids. You can still apply that support to your kids in general, because yes, you still have to raise them, and yes, you still have to be the realistic person, the voice of reason in the room, because again, a child is a child. But there's still ways to support your kid's dream, even if you don't fully understand it. So I thought that was something that was fair. That was really, really interesting.
What was also key for me, when now you mentioned that and talk about parents are still parents, I love when Catherine mentioned her mother told her as an adult how proud that she is of her and her boldness to choose the path that she did, because she suppressed her feelings and what she wanted to do because it wasn't ideal. And that Catherine blocked out all the noise and did what was genuinely good for her and her kids. and her mother just gave her all the kudos. That I appreciated.
Yeah.
Because too many times we, as you said, the narrative, the doctor, the lawyer, the teacher, the firefighter, and it's like, just be. Just be. You're going to have your lifetime to fill in the blanks. Just be.
Just be. Yeah.
So I really appreciated that. And, I want to thank you ladies for putting that together. Crystal for knowing Catherine and her, talking to her, and she was open to do it. And Kenna for, the trajectory of the conversation. And of course, the infomercials. Another guest that we don't have a clip for, but I have to mention Melissa Darville. Melissa, she was just a beam of sunshine. She is a Caribbean sister, and she talked about her journey of just having ideas, doing something that was just, she thought she was doing something small, and it ended up being so grand in her community. When she wanted to do schooling, it just started out as a few students, and it was a huge school, and she did that for 10 years, and then when she decided, let's have a snack, and she turned it out into a huge business in the community that the other Caribbean islands wanted to be a part of her ice cream adventure. And even the government wanted a piece of her pie, literally.
Literally.
And she was so exciting and excitable and positive, and she was just a constant cheerleader. She was a cheerleader talking about herself, but not in a gloating way. It was, I did this, and I see you doing this, and I see you doing this, and I see everybody else doing this, and it's open for you to do this and this and this. And she is joining the trajectory and creating borders outside the Caribbean and joining with our other brothers and sisters in Africa and being the liaison to tie that. And she just did it because she figured, we do a plan. I feel like I can plan and do this. And just because she believed that she could, she did.
Yeah.
Inspiring. That was insightful. And some years back, I used to say my sayings of the year or my sayings of the month. And one of my sayings was, if you believe it, you can achieve it. And she just definitely gave a whole new dimension to that.
Yep.
She believed it, and she just did it. And she was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I just felt it needed to be done. So why not be the person to do it? And I love that about her.
Yeah. Melissa is one of those friends for me. She is the embodiment of Delulu. Like Delulu, yeah. If there was a picture to put next to Delulu, it would be Melissa, because she is, the scripture that says, as the man can see it in his heart, so it is. She's that. If she thinks it, she'll put it on paper within the next couple of days, and she'll start executing days after. She's the type that goes from 0 to 100 in 10 seconds, and you have to keep up with her, because from the point that we had that discussion to now, if anyone's following Melissa Darville on social media, you would see that she almost posts every day now about, collaborating across borders and everything else. And she's written a ton of books.
Have been.
She's written a ton of books. She is she's sold out on whatever vision she's pursuing at the given time. So if she's in it and she says yes to any particular thing, she is completely sold out to that thing. And I aspire to be even a fraction of that, having just a slither of her passion and her determination and her resilience. I would be 10 times forward if I did, because she delivers consistently. Anything she touches always.
I concur, because you ladies said I was busy. I was like, I'm tired listening to her.
Truly. But she's a go-getter and get things done kind of person.
Yes.
And I appreciate that about her. Yeah.
I so appreciated that. And then she too started over, and she has just used that as another stepping stone. Okay, this is ended, so that means I need to start something new. I need to start something new because it's Tuesday, and Tuesday means something new.
Yeah. literally.
I know that Crystal mentioned a Bible verse, and I don't know this one by heart, but I'm paraphrasing, but this is kind of what it reminded me of. It was something in the Bible that be a master of 7, no, be a master of 8, because you never know which one will bring you closer to your purpose of God or something like that.
Right.
The way that you can serve the Lord and the way that the Lord would then ultimately bless you as well. And I think that she is an embodiment of that. She is a master of 7. She is a master of 8. And in everything that she has done, she has brought a lesson with her that's brought her closer to. I can't say what her God-given gift is. I can't say what her God-given passion is. But what I can say is that she's able to find, so even the things that have ended, she's able to find some sort of success in that, in mastering that thing. And that's why I feel like curiosity is so important. Sometimes I feel like I'm so focused on, me personally, I'm so focused on my job and what I'm doing now, and that takes so much of my energy that I have no energy to be curious about anything, anyone. I don't want to think. When I'm done work, I don't want to think. I want to be. I just want to exist. I don't want anyone to perceive me, and I don't want to perceive anything else. I just want to just relax. But seeing people like Melissa and even people like my mom, who I think is very similar in that way, they're always curious about something, and their curiosity doesn't just end with what ifs. It ends with what if, and then let me try and do it. And then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think that being open to trying those things is such a great way to continue to find new, not only new income streams, but able to find new skills, able to discover what you're good at, able to discover what you're bad at, what you like, what you don't like. My mom always has said to me, you need to try everything at least once.
Yeah.
Try anything at least once. And I know that sometimes people think about that when it just comes to like food or experience, but just in general, if it's safe, try it at least once. If you don't like it, you don't like it. And but you may also discover something new that you like about it. And it doesn't just have to be in a professional sense. It could be in more of a hobby sense. There may be something that you didn't like before that you try again and you love it now. So, I really
it. And it's great that you two quoted scripture, because everything that she does, she gives God the glory. She is definitely is like, if he made the way, he made me like this, he conditioned me to be like this, so I am going to definitely do it empty. And that's one thing I concur with her. I was like, I want to go empty. I want to try as much as I can and be empty when it's time, whatever it is, my time. And I admired Melissa for that. Just thinking about her, I feel like I can take on the day, and I think we need to get right into season 7 right now. Let's go, ladies. Let's go.
We might need a break.
I was like, can I rest a little bit?
That's all cute.
Come on, bring out the Melissa in you. Let's go.
No, we will digest.
Very inspiring woman, but like I just said, I need to just be. I don't want to think right now. After this, I'm gonna just exist for a little bit.
Yeah, she is. I truly loved her. I really enjoyed having her. And to wrap up before we even begin to wrap up the season, I want to bring in Julian, and he touched on every point. Episode 1, episode 2, episode 4, episode 7, we're talking about insurance, talking about the importance of knowing what it is that's going on with you, what you need, the conversations that need to be had. And this is one thing we definitely threw at our audience. This is a conversation that you need to have. It may not be something you're accustomed to. This is a conversation that you need to have. You may not be accustomed to it. This is a conversation that you need to have. It's conversations we usually don't have. Yes. We here at Let's Talk About You want you, our audience, to make it a normal conversation. The normal conversation to talk about to your spouse about things that matter and matter to you, because you matter. Conversations about your triggers and your traumas. It doesn't have to be your cousin, but find someone to speak to. Conversations about your finances and estate planning, and conversations about what's next. GoFundMe, like Lindsay Peel said, GoFundMe is not life insurance. The fish fry is not life insurance. What Julian said is life insurance is something that we all need to have. You have to protect yourself for the just in cases, because life in itself is a just in case this happens, or it's a part of the choice making, and that's a choice we need to make. And I am so glad that he was able to share the importance of Titan Insurance, what they offer, what he can offer, and the information. It was just like, really, really. And it was just, God had it so it was on the day that we were experiencing a storm. And no, he doesn't have property insurance. However, like we mentioned, it was a trauma and a trigger for those who have experienced Irma Maria, and everyone experienced COVID. And our mental state of, after Irma Maria, unfortunately, a lot of persons transition. I don't know what their family status was, if they had things in order, but maybe one or two didn't. And these are conversations that we need to have now, because transition is the only thing that every one of us is going to do.
Guaranteed.
So I am so glad that Julian was here to talk about that. Crystal, your thoughts?
Yeah, and top of preparing for that ultimate moment is also to secure us while we're alive. There's so many benefits as well to being insured and having insurance that ties into trauma. Not having insurance triggers you when something, catastrophe happens. So allow yourself, or find a way to get insured with the insurance that you can get access to, so that some of these incidents, when they pop up, we feel a little more protected, prepared, and everything else to be able to address the things that happen unexpectedly, because they will come at some point. We can't plan for it, and it the popular saying is life is lifing. Life is gonna life you at some point. Yeah, we understand. We had the conversation on finance. We know the situation. Everyone isn't in the same financial position. So just take the time to analyze where you're at and ask the questions, because you might be able to access something if you do it early. And the earlier you do it, the more affordable it is, especially when it comes to insurance. So yes, I think that was my key takeaway from Jillian. And just, as we said, tying into all the conversation of finance, trauma, and everything else. These are all important. And entrepreneurship even. Understanding what we need to secure in our businesses, so that we don't end up in a situation where we're being sued, or an incident happens on a job with a worker or something else, and we don't have the proper insurance to cover our investments, which is our business or our companies or whatever it is. So yeah, my key takeaway from him is to have the discussions that are necessary. Yeah.
That kind of ties into the advocacy that's been also mentioned everywhere, is being able to advocate for yourself. It ties into being open and communicative with your partner. If you're in a relationship, hey, this is where we live, this is what we may need. Let's build a relationship with Lindsay Peel mentioned building relationships with different people in finance. Let's build relationships with insurance brokers so that we can understand what this means. Does our insurance that we get from our job, is that enough? Because oftentimes for families, it's not enough. How do we make it enough in a way that's realistic for us? But the thing that stood out to me the most was probably just him seeing a need in a place that he's not from, but knowing that his family lives here, his wife lives here, his kids live here. This is where he has chosen to build a family. And not only is he building a family here, he is sort of committing his, at least professional life, to making sure that other families are safe and protected.
Yeah.
At least based on what he was
he's
talking
taking
about.
care of not only his community, his family, but his community, as well.
And I thought that was really important to say. And even his business name is named after his son. So I just think that his commitment to not only his family, but families in the Virgin Islands, that is something that has stuck with me the most since his episode.
Absolutely. That's an excellent point. And you're right about his commitment to his family and his community. And that's something that's we do here at Let's Talk About You. We're committed to you, our family and our community. And we just brought it all together. One of the we covered all the shows in a nutshell with this conversation, but I love the fact that this season 6, I was able to grow. I got out my comfort zone, and because of the pushing of Crystal and Kiana, and it's like these are discussions that we need to have, and even like I mentioned, the conversations about advocating for women's health. But we were able to bring it back to you, and we did it with reflections. I loved that idea about if you missed the show, we would bring it to you based on our takeaways and our thought process. And I think that was an excellent addition to season 6. We watch the show and then we come back, and then you're not just seeing my beautiful face. You're seeing the gorgeous faces of Kiana and Crystal and hearing their takeaway of their input, and because they are a pivotal, huge part of Let's Talk About You. And I'm so glad that we have the reflection segment so you can see them and see that we're a unit and we're doing this together. And it's not about me and what it is I want. It's about us and how we work together to get things done. And even, and we just totally been transparent about our takeaways and our putting in and taking out. And the reflection was an excellent chef's kiss. So thank you so much, Crystal, for that suggestion about doing the reflections. Thank you for staying committed to doing it, Kiana, because I know, doing it behind the scene is one thing, but making sure that your camera ready is something else. So chef's kiss to both of you. Kiana, what's your point on takeaway on reflections? Because I love it.
I think that I'm glad that you love it. I think that the reflections is a great idea, not just to talk about obviously the content of the shows, but to sort of understand our perspective, understand what went into coming up with the idea of the show, coming up with the guests, what we took away, obviously what was the most important to us, how we've implemented the shows into our lives. Because as you mentioned, Let's Talk About You is talking to people. And oftentimes, we want to give our audience something tangible tangible that they can take with them to do, to say, to write, to think. We're not telling you what to think, but just, things to think about. So being able to be the you in Let's Talk About You in this situation is really has been really intriguing and eye-opening. And it also gives an opportunity into if something went better than we expected or didn't go the way that we expected, we still have a space to be able to be open and to talk about not just the content, but the technical side of things, the process to get things to where they are. So I've enjoyed reflection so far. It does require me to get dressed up a little bit, which depending on the day and the mood. Sometimes I'm not, and that's okay. But I do think that it was a great addition to season 6, and it kind of just elevated us to a place where we're sort of getting more solid footing, growing roots, I guess, into what Let's Talk About You is, and what our mission is.
Yeah. Yes, I'm going to pick up right there.
Just pick right up.
Coming in on the mission. I'm super proud of the shows that we've had with reflections, even taking the opportunity as well to reflect on something that everyone could have been a part of the discussion with our topic on Sinners. So reflecting on the film discussion was also a very cool one to do. I really was excited about that in itself when you guys brought it up as a particular topic, even though I personally hadn't seen the show, just knowing that I didn't see it yet at the time. Have I seen it? No, I haven't seen it still. Actually, sorry. I've watched so much commercials about it now. I feel like I've seen it, but I still haven't seen it, by the way. But I will. forgive me, people. Do not comment. I know I should have watched it already. I'm not a fan of horror stories and thrillers.
It was not horrific. It was not. It brought, I mean, and I don't mean to interject, but when you mentioned Sinners, I had to bring Carrie Williams back because I was like, trauma.
Talk about trauma, right? And even in that, you know, just the fact that we had the Reflections episode, we can now dissect things that are happening in the community or even in movies that are in line with some of the discussions that we were having, and just to become the embodiment of discussion. So Kiana mentioned it earlier with humanizing some of these topics, like put a face to it, put a discussion to it. I feel like we had the opportunity to peel back the layers in our own relationships, you know, in our own lives and everything else, to give persons insight into, you know, what we experience, and, you know, they can see themselves in some of our stories, hopefully, as they listen to us discuss the human aspects of any one particular topic. So I'm looking forward to doing so much more reflection episodes. I'm excited about that. And, you know, more films. I know we did have one, we won't mention it now necessarily, but we did have one that we wanted to do this year, but all of us haven't seen it as well as yet. So you can always suggest to us. So that's a call out then, to suggest to us any particular film, because I think we like the film discussion ones, reflections on particular films and how they relate to whatever topics we might be talking about in that season. So yes, I'm excited. I love reflections. I think we definitely hit the nail on the head on that one, and we can do so much more with it. Yeah.
I just want to say to Kiana and Crystal, thank you for saying yes to me. Thank you for your time, your talents. Oh, your talents. You know, Crystal will be behind the scenes and put the things together, and, you know, even putting the slides together for this show and all the other shows that you've done. Kiana, for putting those infomercials together, your voiceover. I just, ladies, I love you to the moon and beyond. And I just wish you continued abundance, continued favor, continued open doors. I pray that Let's Talk About You is a stepping stone that will open doors for you guys to do so much more than you didn't even think about doing. And I pray that this platform is your stepping stone to the next. It'll take you from where you are to wherever it is God wants you to be. That is my prayer, my desire, my hope, my wish, my blessing upon both of you. I want to thank my sponsors, Kiki Creations, myself. I want to thank Kirsten Brunn, Infinitely Me. I want to thank Abdul Smith for his gun training services. And if you want to be a sponsor of Let's Talk About You, please feel free to contact me, message Kiana, message Crystal, message Let's Talk About You, and let's talk about it, because it will be a great place for you to have your business or even your business events seen here in Let's Talk About You. Season 7, we're putting things into perspective and seeing how it goes. So if you have a business, event or whatever it is, message us. Let's make things happen. I'm so grateful. I am so grateful. I'm so happy. I know that it was a lot and it wasn't just our normal hour show, but I just want to thank each and every one of you for listening. I want to thank each and every one of our guests for saying yes to me, yes to my vision, yes to Crystal, yes to Kiana, Let's Talk About You, and you being so vulnerable and authentic and sharing and caring and empowering and enhancing and encouraging the listening audience as you encouraged me. Thank you guys so much, and continued blessings on everything it is that you guys do. Kiana, what's your closing remark?
No, I'm just happy to see how the show has grown since its inception to now. I feel like this season has shown a lot more of our authentic personalities in this season, a lot of our authentic interests in this season. I feel like we were a lot more open and vulnerable than we have been. And I think that that's connecting with our viewers. And I just want to thank the viewers for sticking with us, and also invite you guys to comment some of your favorite episodes or some of your favorite moments from season 6, even if it's not an episode, because I know it wasn't mentioned today, but the happy birthday video was something that I thought was really, really great. It was, me and Crystal that sort of put that together, Crystal and I. So I just, even if it's not an episode in itself and it's just a moment, a reflection, a video, a let's talk minute, whatever it is, I just invite you to comment it below and share, what it is that you got out of this season, because at the end of the day, we do this for you. It's let's talk about you. So we would love, 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 love to hear what it is that you got out of this season, your biggest takeaways, because mine was just to show up more authentically. That was my big takeaway from season 6.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Jump right in, Crystal.
Yes. Last final words. Oh my goodness. Is it done already? So that would be my last word. I think what I'm excited about is where we go from here. I'm very much I feel like season 6 shifted us a lot and is opening us up to much more dialogue. I feel like we're a little more daring, and we're going to be calling some, additional persons on the show. I'm looking forward to having deeper conversations. So I'm very much in the headspace of season 7. I was going to say 2027. But no, I'm in the headspace of season 7 and adding so much more value to the discussion. We want to talk more about you as the individuals. So if you have a story, also reach out to us. Tell us your story. You never know. We might just feature you on the show. It might not be a full 1-hour show. We could have segments on any particular topic, because I know doing a full 1-hour show can be a bit intimidating, but you can do segments. So just reach out to us and we'll find a way and see how we can make things work. Looking forward to all of it. And I wish, let's talk about you in itself, all the abundance and blessings that it is due. I feel like we've invested time, effort, and everything else to make this show something valuable for people to listen into. And so I hope that everyone is getting value out of it. Of course, share that value with us, but also look forward to more. And we're looking forward to more as well. So thank you all.
Thank you. Stay blessed on purpose. And thank you so much. Season 6.
Adios, season 6.
Goodbye,
Stay blessed
season
on
6.
purpose, guys. Love you. Thank you so much.
Your dream come to life. That is the mission behind Kiki Creations. We're more than a decorating service. We put our all into taking in every detail of your vision and transforming that into breathtaking events. Whether you're celebrating a wedding, retirement, throwing a massive gala, or having an intimate dinner, let Kiki Creations create the moment of your dreams. Celebrate love, laughter, and the moments that really matter with Kiki Creations.